At midnight, husband threw pregnant wife out in a towel after the mistress told him she's coming. At midnight, her husband dragged her out of the house, pregnant, barefoot, wrapped only in a towel, because his mistress had announced she was coming. The night was cold, her belly heavy with child, yet he shoved her outside without a second thought. What do you think happened to a woman treated with such cruelty? This is the story of a woman who was thrown out in shame, yet endured the unimaginable, and rose from the ashes her husband left her in. Hello family, welcome back. Before we begin, I have a small but heartfelt request. Please subscribe. Your support is what keeps these stories alive. Every time you click that button, you're helping us share voices that would otherwise be forgotten and stories that deserve to be heard. And in the comments, tell us where you're watching from, because together, we are not just telling stories, we are keeping hope alive. The neighborhood thought Anna had everything. She was 8 months pregnant, glowing with the kind of beauty that made people stop and smile. Her husband, Michael, was the man everyone admired, handsome, successful, charming, and always ready with a polite smile when neighbors greeted him. From the outside, theirs was the perfect home, a mansion with wide glass windows, expensive cars parked in the driveway, and a garden that looked like something out of a magazine. To strangers, Michael and Anna were the dream couple. But behind those tall gates, Anna lived a different story. That evening, Anna stood in front of the mirror, gently pressing her swollen belly. The baby kicked, and for a brief moment, she smiled. She whispered softly, "Just a little longer, my love. Mama's here." Then Michael's voice cut through the room like a blade. "Why are you just standing there? Do you realize how pathetic you look?" Anna flinched. "I was just what?" he snapped. "Just wasting time? Just staring at yourself like you're something special? Look at you, Anna. You're bloated, heavy and slow. Do you even see what you've become?" Her smile faded. She dropped her gaze. Michael didn't stop. He never did. "I work like a dog every day to give you this life, and you can't even keep yourself presentable. Do you think people don't notice? Do you think they don't see how clumsy you've gotten? You embarrass me, Anna. Everywhere we go, you embarrass me." Anna swallowed hard, fighting tears. "I'm sorry, Michael. Sorry doesn't change how disgusting you look." He grabbed his jacket from the chair. "God, sometimes I wonder how I even ended up with you." He walked out, leaving the scent of his cologne and a trail of humiliation behind him. When the front door slammed, Anna sat on the edge of the bed and pressed her hands against her belly. She whispered to her unborn child, "Don't listen to him. Mama loves you. You're the best thing that ever happened to me." But even as she said it, her chest ached. She couldn't understand how the man who once held her hand, who once promised her the world, could now look at her with such disgust. Later that night, she heard him in his study. His voice was low, almost a whisper, but sharp enough to make her pause outside the door. She said, "Tonight is the test." Michael murmured, "I can't fail her. I've already promised. Don't worry, I'll handle Anna." Anna's heart skipped. She said, "Who is she?" Her first thought was business. Michael had many investors, many clients. Maybe one of them was testing his loyalty. Maybe this was about money. She told herself that. She needed to believe it. But something about his tone, the urgency, the secrecy, stuck in her chest like a thorn. She backed away from the door, clutching her belly. "It's just business," she whispered to herself. "Michael has a lot on his mind. That's all." But deep down, a quiet fear began to grow. The next morning, the mask was back in place. Michael stood in the driveway in his tailored suit, waving at the neighbors as they passed. "Good morning, Mr. Carter," Mrs. Peterson, the elderly woman across the street, called cheerfully. "Good morning." Michael flashed a perfect smile, his arm wrapped casually around Anna's shoulders. Everyone smiled back, envious. They saw the perfect husband, the loving man. No one saw how tightly his fingers dug into Anna's arm, or how his smile disappeared the moment the neighbors turned away. As soon as they stepped back inside, he dropped her arm. "Stand up straight when you're outside. Do you want people thinking I married a weakling?" Anna nodded silently. "And stop staring at me like a lost puppy. You think that makes me look good? You're pathetic." That night, they hosted a dinner party. Their living room glowed with golden lights, music played softly, and guests laughed over glasses of wine. Michael was the center of attention, telling stories of his business triumphs. Every so often he reached for Anna's hand or kissed her cheek. Guests marveled at how attentive he was to his pregnant wife. "Michael, you're such a gentleman," one woman gushed. "Anna is lucky." Michael grinned. "Yes, she is." Anna forced a smile, nodding politely. But the moment the guests left, the atmosphere shifted like a storm. Michael shut the door and turned on her. "Did you hear yourself tonight?" You could barely keep a conversation going, sitting there, looking like some lost cow. "Do you know how embarrassing that is for me?" Anna's throat tightened. "I tried." "Tried? Your only job was to sit there and look decent, and even that you failed. You kept touching your belly like you wanted everyone's attention on you. No one cares that you're pregnant, Anna. Stop acting like it's some achievement." Her lips trembled, but she stayed quiet. "Next time," Michael said coldly, loosening his tie. "Just keep your mouth shut. You'll embarrass me less." Anna went upstairs alone, her shoulders heavy, her body aching not from the pregnancy, but from the words he hurled at her every day. To the world, Michael was the perfect husband. To her, he was a stranger with sharp words and colder eyes. And though she didn't know it yet, the whisper she had overheard, the test he had to pass, was about to destroy her life. The next morning, Anna woke before sunrise. Her body was tired, her back ached from the weight of her belly, but she still went downstairs to prepare breakfast. She thought maybe, just maybe, if she did everything right, Michael would find less to complain about. She laid out his favorite: eggs, toast, and black coffee. Michael came down in a crisp shirt, scrolling through his phone. He didn't even glance at her. He sat, took a sip of the coffee, and frowned. "What is this?" "Your coffee," Anna said softly. "It's weak." He shoved the mug away. "Do you even know how I like it? We've been married for years, and you still can't get it right. What do you do all day, Anna? Sit around and get fat?" She froze. "You're useless," he continued, stabbing a fork into his eggs. "Any woman would kill to be in your position. But here you are, failing at the simplest things." "I'm sorry," Anna whispered. "You're always sorry." He pushed the plate aside and stood. "Sorry doesn't change the fact that you're incompetent. God, look at you. You waddle around this house like a burden I never asked for." Anna bit her lip hard enough to taste blood. She wanted to scream, to defend herself, but the words stuck in her throat. Later that day, she tried calling him. "Michael," she said softly over the phone. "I was thinking we could have dinner together tonight. Just the two of us. It's been a while." There was a pause, then a sharp laugh. "Dinner? With you?" His voice dripped with mockery. "What for? So I can sit across from your swollen face and pretend I enjoy it? Don't embarrass yourself, Anna. I have real plans tonight." The line went dead. Anna sat on the edge of the bed, holding the phone like it weighed 100 pounds. She pressed her hands against her stomach. "Don't worry," she whispered to her unborn child. "Mama's still here. Mama's strong. We'll be okay." But even as she said it, tears rolled down her cheeks. That evening she heard the front door. Michael had come home late, smelling faintly of expensive perfume that wasn't hers. "Where were you?" Anna asked quietly. He dropped his keys on the table, glaring at her. "You don't get to ask me questions. Do you understand?" "I was just worried." "Worried?" He stepped closer, towering over her. "You're not my mother, Anna. Stop acting like you have a say in where I go or who I see. You're nothing more than dead weight in this house." Her hands shook. "Michael, I'm your wife." He laughed coldly. "Wife? Don't flatter yourself. You're just a woman I happened to marry. If I had known you'd turn into this, I would have chosen better." The words cut deeper than any knife. 2 nights later they attended another gathering, this time at a wealthy friend's estate. Anna wore a simple blue dress, one of the few that still fit over her growing stomach. "You're going out like that?" Michael sneered before they left. "It's the only one that fits me now." Pathetic. Try not to embarrass me tonight. At the party, Michael played the part of doting husband once again. He kept an arm around Anna, pulled out her chair, poured her water. Guests smiled and whispered, "What a gentleman." But every time she leaned close to thank him, his grip tightened painfully on her arm, and through clenched teeth he hissed, "Don't speak unless someone asks you something. Do you hear me?" Anna nodded silently, her smile frozen in place. When they got home, the mask dropped. "You looked ridiculous tonight," Michael said, tossing his jacket onto the couch. "Sitting there like some cow, eating too much, touching your stomach every 5 minutes. Did you see the looks people gave you?" They were disgusted. Anna's voice trembled. No one said anything. Of course they didn't. They're too polite. But I saw it. I felt it. "You're dragging me down, Anna. Do you understand that? You are ruining my image, and I won't let you ruin me." He stormed upstairs, leaving her standing in the empty living room, her hands cradling her belly, her heart pounding. That night, Anna lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Michael's words replayed in her mind. "You're dragging me down. You're ruining me." And then she remembered what she had overheard days ago. She said tonight is the test. I can't fail her. Who was she? And what test? Anna didn't have the answers, but she could feel it in her bones. Something dark was coming. She closed her eyes and held her belly tight. "My love," she whispered to her unborn child. "I don't know what tomorrow will bring. But whatever happens, I'll protect you. Even if it costs me everything." That night, as Michael slept soundly beside her, Anna's eyes stayed open, heavy with dread. The perfect mask was slipping, the cracks were showing, and soon the whole world would see the truth hiding behind their golden doors. If you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love you to join our community by hitting the subscribe button. Through our stories, we build hope and give future to children and women abused all over the world. Motivate us by subscribing to hitting the subscribe button and turning on your notification bell. Also let us know in the comments where you are watching us from and how this story hit home for you. The night was heavy with silence. Outside, the streets were empty, the lamps casting long shadows across the quiet neighborhood. Inside the Carter mansion, the lights still glowed. Anna sat on the couch, her hands resting on her swollen belly. The baby shifted inside her, pressing against her ribs. She whispered softly, "Almost there, little one." Just a few more weeks, but her peace shattered when the front door opened without warning. Michael stepped in, and behind him came a tall woman in a red dress, her heels clicking against the marble floor. Her perfume filled the air, sharp and sweet, cutting through the room. Anna's heart sank. She didn't need an introduction. She knew instantly this was her. The she Michael had whispered about. The woman smiled, a cold, mocking smile. "So this is the wife." Michael's jaw tightened. "Vanessa, not here." Vanessa's eyes roamed over Anna, pausing at her belly. She let out a small laugh. "You didn't tell me she was this big." "God, she looks miserable." Anna's lips parted, but no words came out. Michael shot her a glare. "Don't just sit there like an idiot. Get up and greet her." Anna rose slowly, her bare feet sinking into the carpet. Her body was heavy, her breath uneven. "Hello," she said softly, forcing the word past the lump in her throat. Vanessa tilted her head. "She's polite. How sweet. But Michael, you know what we agreed. She crossed her arms. If you want me, she has to go. Tonight Anna's eyes widened. What? Michael didn't look at her. He looked at Vanessa. Are you serious? Vanessa's smile hardened. I don't share. Not with a pregnant wife. Not with anyone. If you want me in your life, Michael, she leaves. Now. The room spun around Anna. She stumbled forward, clutching her belly. Michael, please. What is she saying? You're not really going to— Shut up, Anna! Michael snapped, his voice sharp like a whip. You think you have a say in this? You're nothing. You've been dragging me down for months, and I'm sick of it. Tears blurred Anna's vision. But I'm your wife. I'm carrying your child. Michael laughed coldly. Don't remind me. That's the only thing you've ever done. Get pregnant and sit here like a burden. Vanessa smirked, stepping closer. She's pathetic, Michael. Look at her, standing there in that ragged nightgown, begging. Do you really want that tied to your name? Anna turned to Michael, her voice trembling. Don't do this. Please, I've stood by you through everything. I've never complained. I love you, love, Michael sneered. What has your love ever given me? Nothing but shame. You think I care about your love? Vanessa is the only woman who makes me feel alive. The words shattered Anna. She felt the ground slip beneath her. Michael! Her voice cracked. Please, don't throw me away. Not like this. But Michael had already made his choice. His eyes were cold, empty. He grabbed her arm. Get out! Anna gasped. What? It's midnight. Where am I supposed to go? I don't care, Michael spat. You will not embarrass me in front of Vanessa. You'll leave this house tonight. He dragged her toward the stairs. Anna clutched at the banister, trying to resist. Please, Michael, I'm not even dressed. Then go as you are. He yanked her forward. Anna stumbled, her towel slipping from the hook on the wall as he shoved it at her. Here, cover yourself with this if you're so concerned. She looked down at the thin towel, horror in her eyes. Michael, no, please, not like this. Vanessa laughed. Oh, this is perfect. The neighbors will see what she really is. Anna's heart raced. She shook her head violently, clutching her belly. Please, the baby! Think of the baby! At least let me get dressed. Michael's face twisted with rage. The baby? You think I care? You should have thought of that before turning into this useless mess. Now move. He shoved the towel into her arms and pulled her toward the front door. Anna's cries echoed in the empty hall. Don't do this! Michael, please, I have nowhere to go! But Michael didn't slow down. His grip was like iron around her wrist, dragging her across the polished floor. When they reached the door, Anna tried one last time. She fell to her knees, sobbing. Please! Not like this. You loved me once. Doesn't that mean anything? Michael yanked her back to her feet. That was before you turned into this disgrace. Vanessa is right. You don't belong here. He pulled the door open. The cold night air rushed in, biting her skin. Anna clung to the doorframe, desperate. Michael, please! Don't do this to me! Don't shame me like this! But he tore her hands away, pushed her outside, and slammed the door behind her. The sound echoed through the night like a gunshot. Anna stood barefoot on the front steps, wrapped only in a towel, the chill slicing through her. Her belly trembled with each breath. From inside she heard laughter. Vanessa's laughter, light and cruel, and Michael's voice, low and satisfied. Finally, she's gone. Anna staggered back a step, tears streaming down her face. The night air was cold, her body weak, her heart shattered. Windows flickered to life around the neighborhood. Curtains shifted. Shadows moved. The Kaidi neighbors were watching. They saw her standing there, pregnant, barefoot, wrapped in nothing but a towel. The whispers began, and Anna, humiliated beyond words, collapsed onto the cold steps, clutching her belly. She whispered through her sobs, her voice breaking the silence of the night. I will never forget this night. The cold night wrapped around Anna like ice. Her bare feet pressed against the rough stone steps. The towel clung weakly to her shivering body, and her swollen belly rose and fell with each trembling breath. Her mind spun. How could he do this? How could the man I trusted, the man I loved, throw me out like trash? She lifted her head slowly and saw movement across the street. A curtain shifted, then another. The neighbors were awake. Behind glass, shadows leaned close. Some faces peeked through half-open blinds, whispering. She could almost hear their words carried by the night breeze. Is that Anna Carter? What on earth is she doing outside like that? She's pregnant! Look at her. Oh my God, she's in nothing but a towel. Her heart clenched. Shame burned hotter than the cold. She wanted to disappear, to sink into the ground. She pulled the towel tighter around her chest, but nothing could cover the truth. She had been thrown out by her husband. The door behind her creaked open. Anna turned, hope flashing in her eyes. Maybe Michael changed his mind. Maybe he'll help me back inside. But it wasn't Michael. It was Vanessa. She stood in the doorway, her red dress glowing in the golden light, her arms folded with smug satisfaction. She leaned lazily against the frame, eyes scanning Anna from head to toe. Oh, how pitiful, Vanessa purred. Look at you. Out here in the cold, like a stray cat. Do you realize how pathetic you look? Anna's lips quivered. Please, Vanessa, I've done nothing to you. Please don't do this. I'm carrying his child. Vanessa smirked. Exactly. And that's the problem. I don't share. Michael belongs to me now. You? You're just a memory. Tears blurred Anna's vision. I loved him. I gave him everything. And look where it got you, Vanessa snapped, her voice sharp as glass. Thrown out, barefoot, dressed like a beggar. You're not his wife anymore, Anna. You're nothing. With a laugh that cut deep, she turned back into the house. The door slammed once more. The sound echoed like final judgment. Anna fell to her knees on the cold stone. The towel slipped slightly, but she clutched it back against her chest, sobbing uncontrollably. Her belly tightened, a dull ache spreading through her body. She whispered to her unborn child, voice shaking, "Don't be afraid. Mama's here. Mama won't let him destroy us. Not forever. Not like this." The baby shifted inside her, almost as if answering. She tried to rise, but her legs buckled. She sank again, pressing her hand against the door as if Michael might still hear her through the wood. "Michael," she cried softly. "Please. Don't let me out here. I have nowhere to go. I'm carrying your child." But inside she heard only muffled laughter, Vanessa's mocking voice, Michael's deeper tone joining hers. He hadn't just shut her out of the house, he had shut her out of his life. The neighborhood whispers grew louder. A man's voice carried faintly from across the street. She must have done something terrible for him to throw her out like that. Another replied, or maybe this is who she really is. We never knew what went on behind those doors. Anna buried her face in her hands. Each whisper was another blade cutting into her soul. Not only had Michael humiliated her, but he had made her a spectacle for the world to mock. Time seemed to stand still. The cold deepened. Her body shook violently, but her tears finally slowed. She stared at the ground, her heart numb, and then, quietly, brokenly, words slipped from her lips, words that would stay with her forever. "I will never forget this night." Her voice cracked, but the vow was clear. This shame, this pain, I will carry it with me. And one day I will rise from it. Her hand pressed firmly against her belly. For you, my child. For us. This night will not be the end. It will be the beginning. From inside the mansion, light spilled through the windows. The sound of music played faintly. Michael and Vanessa celebrating, as if Anna's suffering were entertainment. But outside, barefoot, humiliated and broken, Anna was making a promise no one could hear. A promise that one day the man who dragged her out into the cold and the woman who mocked her would regret this night more than anything in their lives. For now, though, she sat in silence, shivering beneath the weight of betrayal, as the neighborhood watched from their windows and whispered her shame. And above it all, the midnight sky stretched wide and dark, holding her vow like a secret written in the stars. The night seemed endless. Anna sat on the cold stone steps for what felt like hours, her body trembling from the chill, her eyes swollen from crying. The towel clung damp against her skin, and every movement made her belly ache. She felt like a ghost of herself, abandoned in the dark, stripped of her dignity. The laughter from inside the house had faded into silence, but the pain in her chest only grew louder. Michael's words replayed again and again. "You're nothing. You don't belong here. Vanessa is the only woman who makes me feel alive." She pressed her hand against her stomach. "Don't worry, my baby," she whispered, her teeth chattering. "Mama will find a way." Somehow, with every ounce of strength left in her, Anna rose unsteadily to her feet. The street was quiet. A few curtains were still drawn open, neighbors watching, but no one came out. Not one person stepped forward to help her. The shame of it sank into her bones. Barefoot, she began walking down the street, each step cut against the rough pavement. Her towel slipped, and she clutched it tighter, her face burning with humiliation. She didn't know where she was going. She only knew she couldn't stay. She walked past familiar houses, each one lit warmly inside. She could see families gathered at tables, children laughing, couples sipping tea. It made her stomach twist with grief. Once, she thought her life had looked like that. But it had all been a mask, a show Michael put on for the world. Now the truth was laid bare. She was homeless, unwanted, and carrying a child that felt heavier with each painful step. Halfway down the street, her legs gave out. She sank to the curb, sobbing quietly into her hands. The towel slipped again, and she hugged it back around her shoulders, wishing she could disappear. A passing car slowed, the driver staring. Anna turned her face away, mortified. The car drove on. That was when she realized she had no one to turn to, no friends. Michael had isolated her, convinced her that everyone outside their home envied her, that they couldn't be trusted. She had believed him. She had cut herself off from people who might have cared. Now all she had was the memory of one person, her grandmother. Anna hadn't spoken to Margaret in years. Her grandmother had raised her after her parents died. But when Anna married Michael, everything changed. Michael had called Margaret old-fashioned and toxic. He said she meddled too much and disrespected him. Slowly, he pushed Anna away from her grandmother, convincing her that she didn't need anyone else. But now, in the middle of the night, cold and broken, Margaret's face came back to her. The wrinkles, the sharp eyes, the way she used to hold Anna's hand and say, "Never forget who you are, child." Anna rose again. Her body screamed in protest, but she forced her legs to move. Step after painful step, she walked out of the wealthy neighborhood and toward the poorer side of town, where her grandmother still lived. It took hours. By the time she reached the small wooden house with its peeling paint and sagging roof, dawn had started to break. Birds chirped in the trees, mocking her misery with their cheerful songs. Anna stood at the gate, shaking. Her feet were cut and raw, her eyes blurred with exhaustion. She raised her fist and knocked weakly at the door. The door creaked open. Margaret stood there, wrapped in a faded robe, her grey hair tied back. Her sharp eyes widened when she saw Anna, barefoot, wrapped in a towel, her belly heavy, her face streaked with tears. "Dear Lord," Margaret breathed. "Anna?" Anna's voice cracked. "Grandma!" Without another word, Margaret pulled her inside. She wrapped a blanket around her trembling shoulders and sat her down in a chair. "What happened to you, child?" "Who did this?" Margaret's voice shook with both anger and concern. Anna sobbed. Michael, he threw me out. At midnight, he said I was nothing. He chose her. Margaret's face hardened. Her. Vanessa, Anna whispered. His mistress. Margaret's jaw clenched. I always knew that man was rotten. From the first day I met him, I saw the arrogance in his eyes. But you were so blinded by love, Anna covered her face. I thought he loved me. I gave him everything. And now, I have nothing. No home, no money, nothing. Margaret knelt beside her, gripping her hands tightly. Listen to me, Anna. You still have your life, you still have your child, and you still have me. That man may have thrown you out, but he has not destroyed you. Anna sobbed harder. I don't know if I can survive this. I feel dead inside. You're stronger than you think, Margaret said firmly, and you will rise again. But first, you must know the truth about Michael. Later that morning, after Anna had bathed and eaten, Margaret sat her down at the kitchen table. Sunlight filtered weakly through the curtains, illuminating the lines on her grandmother's face. Anna, Margaret began, Michael never married you for love. He married you for your inheritance. Anna's stomach twisted. Inheritance? Yes. Your father left you more than just his estate. He left stocks, bonds, and properties under your name. You were young, so Michael convinced you to sign power of attorney papers when you married him. I warned you then, but you wouldn't listen. That man was never interested in your heart, only your fortune. Anna shook her head. No. Michael wouldn't. Margaret slammed a stack of old documents on the table. He already has. I've been keeping track. I hired a lawyer years ago, just in case. Look at these. He's been moving money, selling land, signing documents you never saw. He's stealing from you, Anna. Piece by piece, Anna's hands shook as she picked up the papers. Tears blurred her vision. He betrayed me, in every way. Yes, Margaret said grimly, and there's more. I found something in your father's will, a clause Michael doesn't know about. It states that if your husband is proven guilty of betrayal or misconduct, all rights he has over your inheritance are void. Anna looked up, her eyes wide. You mean? I mean, Margaret said, leaning closer. If you can prove his adultery, his cruelty, his theft, you can strip him of everything he stole, every penny, every property. He will be left with nothing. Anna sat in stunned silence. The thought of justice flickered in her chest, but it was buried under the weight of her humiliation. I don't know if I can fight him, she whispered. I feel broken, Grandma. I feel like I have no strength left. Margaret reached across the table and gripped her hand. You will find your strength. Not for him, not even for me. For your child. That baby is your reason now. Do you understand? Anna nodded weakly, though tears still streamed down her face. The days that followed were filled with pain. Anna couldn't sleep without nightmares of that night, Michael's hands dragging her, Vanessa's mocking laugh, the cold bite of the pavement beneath her feet. She woke often in tears, clutching her belly, whispering, I'm sorry, baby. I'm sorry you had to feel all that. Margaret tried to comfort her. But healing was slow. Anna had spent years being belittled, years losing her confidence under Michael's cruelty. Now, stripped of her home and dignity, she felt like a hollow shell. But Margaret refused to let her sink into despair. Each morning she pushed Anna gently. Get up, child. Eat. You must eat for the baby. Each night, she reminded her, pain does not last forever. One day, you will stand tall again. Anna resisted at first, but slowly, step by painful step, she began to rise. Margaret taught Anna to sew, to cook, to manage money on her own. She gave her a small space in the market to sell homemade goods, breads, clothes, small crafts. At first, Anna was terrified. She had never worked a day in her life. Michael had always told her she was useless outside the home. But the customers came. They bought her bread, admired her sewing. They smiled at her, treated her with kindness. For the first time in years, Anna felt a flicker of pride. Weeks turned into months. She worked tirelessly, balancing her new trade with caring for her baby, who soon came into the world with cries that filled Margaret's small home with new life. Anna held her child against her chest, tears streaming down her face. "You are my strength," she whispered. "You are my reason to fight." One evening, after putting the baby to sleep, Anna sat at the table with Margaret. The documents lay spread before them. "I want to do it," Anna said softly but firmly. "I want to fight him. I want to take back everything he stole." Margaret's eyes gleamed with pride. "That's my girl. We will gather proof, letters, witnesses, evidence of his adultery. We will be patient, and when the time is right, we will strike." Anna nodded, her jaw set. The fear had not vanished, but something new had taken root inside her. Resolve. She remembered the cold night, the whispers of the neighbors, Vanessa's laughter. She remembered Michael's face as he shoved her into the dark, her hands curled into fists. "I swore I would never forget that night," she said. "Now I swear I will make them regret it." And so began Anna's slow transformation, from a broken, humiliated wife into a woman of strength, sharpened by pain, fueled by betrayal, and armed with truth. The world had seen her fall in disgrace. One day soon they would see her rise. Years passed. The woman who had once been dragged barefoot into the cold night was gone. In her place stood a different Anna, strong, steady, and radiant in her quiet dignity. Life had not been easy, but she had rebuilt herself from the ashes Michael left her in. The small business Margaret helped her start had grown steadily. What began as sewing and baking at a small market stand blossomed into a chain of shops. People respected Anna for her kindness, her honesty, and her perseverance. They admired the way she carried herself, with grace, even when life had broken her. Her child, Daniel, grew up healthy and loved, wrapped in the warmth of his mother's resilience. He never knew the mansion his father once kept, or the cold cruelty of Michael's voice. All he knew was his mother's gentle hand and his great-grandmother's firm guidance. Anna often stayed awake late at night watching Daniel sleep. Sometimes the memory of that dreadful night returned, the laughter behind the slammed door, the whispers of the neighbors. But now it burned not as humiliation, but as fuel. She had survived. She had risen. Michael and Vanessa, however, were not so fortunate. Their life of indulgence devoured itself. Michael's business empire began to crumble under poor decisions, reckless spending, and greed. The charm that once dazzled investors grew thin as whispers of corruption spread. Vanessa, once triumphant, grew restless. The glamour she had stolen came with cracks, bills unpaid, debts mounting, and a man who could no longer maintain the illusion of greatness. They argued often. Their voices echoed down the hallways of the mansion where Anna had once cried in silence. Michael shouted about loyalty, Vanessa sneered about money. She had wanted power and wealth, not a sinking ship. Still, in public, Michael wore his mask. He dressed in fine suits, forced his smile, and boasted of success he no longer truly had. But beneath the surface, he was a man cornered. And Anna knew the time had come. The night of the gala was grander than most. It was one of the city's biggest social events. Politicians, businessmen, socialites, and journalists all gathered in the golden ballroom of the Carter Hotel. Ironically, the hotel still bore Michael's name, though whispers said it was close to being seized by creditors. The chandeliers glittered, glasses clinked, music floated through the air. Michael entered with Vanessa clinging to his arm. She wore another red dress, but the shine on her jewelry was borrowed, and her smile did not reach her eyes. Michael's hair was grayer now, his eyes more tired, but he held his head high, desperate to maintain his image. The room buzzed with greetings, though quieter than before. People still smiled at him, but the whispers followed too. Isn't his company in trouble? I heard his investors are pulling out. Michael ignored it all. He straightened his tie, convinced he could charm his way out of ruin. Then the room shifted. Gasps and murmurs spread like fire. Heads turned toward the grand staircase. Anna was there. She wore a flowing gown of deep blue, simple yet elegant, and diamonds sparkled lightly at her neck. But it wasn't the dress or the jewels that silenced the crowd. It was her presence. She glowed with a calm strength, her chin lifted, her eyes steady. Years of pain had sharpened her into something unbreakable. At her side was Daniel, now a young boy, dressed neatly in a small suit. He held his mother's hand proudly, unaware of the storm brewing in the room. "Is that Anna Carter?" someone whispered. "She looks incredible. I thought Michael left her with nothing." Anna walked gracefully into the ballroom, her gaze scanning the room until it settled on Michael. His face drained of color. He froze, his smile faltering. For a moment, he looked like the man who had once shoved her into the cold night. But now, he was the one, trembling. Vanessa's grip tightened on his arm. "Michael!" she hissed. "What is she doing here?" I don't know," he muttered, though his voice cracked. Anna approached slowly. The crowd parted for her, their eyes wide, their whispers growing. She stopped only a few feet from Michael, her posture calm and unshaken. "Good evening," she said softly, but her voice carried through the silence of the room. Michael swallowed hard. "Anna, what are you doing here?" Anna's eyes never wavered. "Reclaiming what was taken." Gasps rippled through the room. From her bag, Anna drew a folder. Calmly, without theatrics, she handed it to the nearest journalist, who flipped it open with eager hands. Inside were documents, proof of Michael's forged signatures, records of his financial theft, and photographs of his affairs with Vanessa, taken long after he had cast Anna out. The journalist's eyes widened. He turned to the crowd. This is evidence of fraud, of embezzlement, of infidelity." The whispers turned into a storm. Michael lunged forward. "Those are lies, forged. She's desperate. Don't listen to her." Anna's voice cut through him like steel. "Lies. You forged my name to steal my inheritance. You bled my father's legacy dry for your own greed. You betrayed your vows, your family, your own child." Her gaze shifted briefly to Vanessa. "And you helped him." Vanessa stepped back, her face pale. "Michael, is this true?" "Of course not," Michael snapped, but his voice shook. Anna looked around the room, meeting the eyes of every man and woman who once praised Michael's charm. "For years, you admired this man. You envied our so-called perfect life. But, behind those golden doors, he was cruel. He dragged me into the night, barefoot, pregnant, wearing nothing but a towel because his mistress demanded it. He left me to the cold and the shame while you all whispered from behind your curtains." The crowd gasped. Some covered their mouths, some looked away in guilt. Anna's voice trembled, but not with weakness, with the weight of truth. That night broke me. But it also made me. Because when a man strips you of everything, you learn how to clothe yourself in strength. And I have. Michael's face was red with fury. "Enough! You can't prove anything." But Anna simply nodded to the journalist holding the folder. "The evidence is all there. Signed documents, witnesses, bank records. My lawyers have copies. Tonight is just the beginning." The journalist smirked. "This will make headlines by morning." Vanessa yanked her arm from Michael's grip. "You lied to me," she spat, her voice dripping with venom. "You told me you were untouchable. That everything was yours." Michael's desperation grew. "Vanessa, don't—" But she laughed bitterly. "Do you think I'll sink with you? I stayed for the wealth, Michael, not for your charm. And now you have nothing. With that, she turned and walked away, her heels echoing across the ballroom floor. She didn't look back. The crowd erupted. Some sneered at Michael, some muttered insults. Others turned their admiration toward Anna, applauding softly, then louder, until the room filled with the sound. Anna stood tall, her son's hand in hers, her eyes locked on Michael's. He was trembling, sweat beading his forehead, his once proud posture crumbling. And then she spoke the words that would haunt him forever. "The night you stripped me of everything, you gave me the strength to own myself." Her voice was calm, steady, and final. Michael staggered back, his eyes wide, his mouth opening and closing without words. The mask he had worn for years shattered completely in front of everyone. Anna turned then, not with anger, but with dignity. She didn't scream. She didn't curse. She didn't need to. Her silence, her composure, was more powerful than any vengeance could be. She walked out of the ballroom, her son's hand in hers, her gown sweeping gracefully behind her. The crowd watched in awe, their whispers now words of admiration. She survived him. She's stronger than he ever was. What a woman. Behind her, Michael sank into a chair, his head in his hands. The applause for Anna still echoed, drowning him in shame. He had lost everything, his wealth, his reputation, his mistress. And worse, he had lost to the woman he once called nothing. Alone, disgraced, and hollow, Michael was left with only his memories. And at the center of them all was that night, the night he dragged her out in the cold, believing she would never rise again. But Anna had risen, and she would never fall again.
The papers were sitting on my kitchen counter like they belonged there. Crisp, white, official. I dropped my suitcase right there in the doorway of my penthouse and walked toward them, my heels clicking on the marble floor. I had cut my business trip short because I missed home. I missed my space. The irony was not lost on me when I picked up the documents and read the header, "Petition for Property Division in Anticipated Dissolution of Marriage." My hands did not shake. Not yet. That would come later. Right then, I just stood there reading words that made no sense. Cameron Phillips, my husband of 3 years, was claiming MY Penthouse as marital property. This penthouse. The one I bought 6 years ago with money from selling my first tech startup. The one I owned before I ever met him at that charity gala where he smiled at me like I was the only woman in the room. I flipped through the pages. His lawyer had been thorough. There were arguments about how the property had increased in value during the marriage, and how Cameron had contributed to its maintenance and improvement. I almost laughed. Cameron had contributed exactly nothing except his clothes in the closet and his terrible taste in artwork that I had politely declined to hang on my walls. But the worst part was not the legal papers. The worst part was what I found when I walked into our bedroom, looking for Cameron to ask him what kind of game he was playing. He was not there. His side of the bed was made. His phone was charging on the nightstand. His laptop was open on the desk. I should not have looked. But when your husband files papers to steal your home, you stop caring about privacy. I touched the trackpad and the screen lit up. He had not logged out of his messages. The chat thread at the top was with someone named S. "Baby, just a few more weeks and the penthouse will be ours. My lawyer says Naomi won't have a choice. It'll be tied up in court for years and she'll give up. Then we can finally be together in the space we deserve." I scrolled up. Weeks of messages. Months. Photos of a woman with blonde hair and too much makeup, posing in lingerie. Photos of Cameron with her at restaurants I had never been to. Messages planning their future in MY home. Messages mocking me. "She has no idea," Cameron had written just 2 days ago. "She actually thinks I love her." I sat down on the edge of the bed, still holding his laptop. My mind was racing but my body felt frozen. 3 years. 3 years of marriage. 3 years of cooking dinners and attending his business events and smiling for photos and believing that I had finally found someone who loved me for me, not for my money or my success. And all along he was planning this. All along there was Stephanie. Because that was her name. Stephanie Drake. I found her social media in his bookmarks. She was 29, worked as a lifestyle consultant, whatever that meant, and had posted a photo just yesterday with the caption, "Can't wait for my new chapter to begin." My new chapter. In my penthouse. I closed the laptop carefully. I stood up and walked to the window that overlooked Central Park. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. I had bought this penthouse because of this view. I had stood in this exact spot 5 years ago and knew that this was where I belonged. I had worked 16-hour days building my company from nothing. I had sacrificed relationships and sleep and peace of mind to create something that was mine. And Cameron thought he could just take it. My phone buzzed. A text from Cameron. "Hey babe, stuck in meetings all day. Don't wait up. Love you." I stared at that message. Love you. 2 words that used to make me smile. Now they just made me angry. Not the hot, explosive kind of angry. The cold, calculating kind. The kind that makes you dangerous. I texted back, "No problem. See you tomorrow." Then I took photos of everything. The legal documents. Every message on his laptop. Every photo. I uploaded them to a secure cloud account. I sent them to my personal email. I made sure there were copies everywhere. Then I called my assistant. "Rebecca, I need you to get me the name of the best divorce attorney in New York City. Not the most famous. The best. The one who wins cases that seem impossible." Rebecca did not ask questions. She had worked for me for 6 years. She knew when I meant business. "I'll have 3 names for you in an hour," she said. I hung up and looked around my penthouse. Every piece of furniture I had chosen. Every painting on the walls. Every book on the shelves. This was mine. I had built this life myself. And I would be damned if I let Cameron Phillips take any of it. I sat down on my couch and waited for Rebecca to call back. Cameron had made a mistake. He thought I was soft. He thought because I loved him, I would be weak. He thought he could manipulate me the way he probably manipulated everyone else in his life. But Cameron did not know who he was dealing with. I had not built a successful tech company by being weak. I had not negotiated million-dollar deals by being naive. I had not survived in a male-dominated industry by being easy to push around. Cameron wanted to play games with my home? Fine. I would play. But I would play to win. And when I was done, Cameron Phillips would have nothing left. The sun finished setting. The sky turned dark. And I sat there in my penthouse planning my next move. The betrayal hurt. The lies hurt. But I would not let the hurt make me stupid. I would let it make me smart. My phone rang. "Rebecca." "I have the names," she said. "Send them to me," I said. "And Rebecca? Clear my schedule for the next week. I have some personal business to handle." I hung up and smiled. Not a happy smile. A smile that meant war. Cameron wanted my penthouse? He was about to find out that he had picked the wrong woman to mess with. I did not sleep that night. Instead, I worked. I had always been good at research, at digging through information to find patterns and connections. That skill had made me millions in tech. Now it was going to save my life. By 3 in the morning, I had built a complete timeline of Cameron's betrayal. It was worse than I thought. So much worse. I started with his bank accounts. We had a joint account for household expenses, but Cameron also had his own accounts for his business. I had never looked at them before. Why would I? I trusted him. The word felt bitter now. Trust. What a stupid, naive concept. But I had access. I was his wife. I was listed as a beneficiary on most of his accounts for estate planning purposes. With a few clicks and some password recovery questions I knew the answers to, I was in. The pattern was clear. Starting 8 months ago, Cameron had been transferring money. Not huge amounts that would trigger alerts. Small amounts. 10,000 here. 15,000. There. Always to an account I did not recognize. Over 8 months, it added up to almost $400,000. I traced the receiving account. It belonged to a shell company called SD Ventures LLC. Registered in Delaware. Owner listed as S. Drake. Stephanie Drake. I leaned back in my chair. So Cameron was not just cheating. He was stealing. He was taking money from our joint assets and giving it to his mistress. Money that was partly mine. But that was not all. I kept digging. I found emails between Cameron and his financial advisor, discussing asset protection strategies in case of divorce. I found documents showing that Cameron had tried to take out a second mortgage on the penthouse without my knowledge. The application had been denied because the property was in my name alone, thank God. But the fact that he tried made my blood boil. I found text messages where he complained to Stephanie about how Naomi is so controlling about money. This from a man who had never paid for a single grocery bill in our entire marriage. I had never been controlling. I had just kept what was mine separate like any smart business person would. I found photos on his phone. Hundreds of them. Cameron and Stephanie at hotels. At beaches. At restaurants. Some were date stamped from our anniversary weekend last year, when he told me he had to go to a business conference. He had been with her instead. The sun came up while I was reading through emails. I watched the light creep across my living room and felt nothing. No tears. No sadness. Just a cold, hard determination. My phone buzzed with a text from Cameron. Morning beautiful. Miss you. When are you back from your trip? I looked at that message and felt disgust. He thought I was still on my business trip. He had no idea I was sitting in our bedroom, in our home, reading through every lie he had ever told me. I texted back, just landed. Be home tonight. That would give me the whole day to keep working. To keep building my case. Because that was what this was now. Case. Evidence collection. Strategy development. At 8 in the morning, I called the first attorney on Rebecca's list. Patricia Holmes. Her assistant said she was booked solid, but I said it was urgent. Within an hour, Patricia herself called me back. Mrs. Phillips, she said. Her voice was sharp and professional. My assistant said you have an urgent legal matter. I need a divorce, I said. And I need to make sure my husband gets nothing. There was a pause. Then Patricia said, can you come to my office today? Say 11 o'clock. I'll be there, I said. I spent the next 2 hours getting ready. I dressed carefully. A black suit. Hair pulled back. Minimal makeup. I looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. 3 years ago I had been happy, successful, in love. Now I just looked tired. But tired was fine. Tired meant I had been working. And working meant I was going to win. Patricia's office was in a glass tower in Midtown. Her receptionist showed me into a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows. Patricia was exactly what I expected. 50-something. Gray hair cut in a sharp bob. A suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. She looked like she ate opposing counsel for breakfast. Mrs. Phillips, she said, shaking my hand. Her grip was firm. Please sit. I sat. I pulled out my tablet and opened the folder where I had organized everything. I found out yesterday that my husband is trying to claim my penthouse as marital property, I said. I also found out he's having an affair and has been funneling money to his mistress. I slid the tablet across the desk. Patricia picked it up and started scrolling. Her expression did not change, but I saw her eyebrows raise slightly. You've been busy, she said. I built a tech company from nothing, I said. I know how to research. Patricia smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of a predator recognizing another predator. I like you already, she said. Let me look through this more carefully, but from what I'm seeing, you have an excellent case. The penthouse is yours. Premarital property. He has no claim to it. He thinks he does, I said. His lawyer filed papers. His lawyer is an idiot, Patricia said bluntly. And your husband is worse. He's not just trying to take your property. He's committed fraud. He's stolen marital assets and given them to his mistress. He's tried to mortgage your property without your consent. Mrs. Phillips, this isn't just a divorce case. This is a criminal case. My heart started beating faster. Criminal? Financial fraud. Identity theft if he forged your signature anywhere. Possible embezzlement depending on how the joint accounts were structured. Patricia set down the tablet and looked at me directly. The question is, how far do you want to take this? I did not hesitate. As far as it goes. Patricia nodded. Then here's what we're going to do. We're going to file for divorce immediately. We're going to freeze all joint accounts. We're going to file a restraining order based on financial abuse. And we're going to report the fraud to the authorities. By the end of the week, your husband is going to wish he had never met you. For the first time since finding those papers on my counter, I felt something other than anger. I felt hope. When do we start? I asked. Patricia smiled again. We already have. I left Patricia's office with a plan. A real, concrete plan. For the first time in 24 hours, I felt like I could breathe. Patricia had told me the most important thing. Act normal. Don't let Cameron know that I knew. Not yet. Not until all the pieces were in place. The element of surprise is everything in cases like this, Patricia had said. If he knows you're onto him, he'll start hiding assets. He'll drain accounts. He'll make things harder. Right now, he thinks he's in control. Let him keep thinking that for a few more days. So I went home. I unpacked my suitcase properly. I changed into comfortable clothes. I made myself lunch. I answered emails. I acted like everything was normal because nothing was normal and I needed Cameron to believe otherwise. He came home at 7 that evening. I heard his key in the door and my whole body tensed. But I forced myself to smile when he walked into the kitchen where I was chopping vegetables for dinner. Hey babe, he said, walking over to kiss my cheek. His lips on my skin made my stomach turn, but I did not pull away. I just kept smiling. Hey, I said. How was work? Exhausting, he said, loosening his tie. Meetings all day. I'm starving. What are you making? Pasta, I said. Should be ready in 20 minutes. He poured himself a glass of wine and sat at the kitchen island, watching me cook. This had been our routine for 3 years. Him sitting there talking about his day while I cooked. I had liked it once. Thought it was domestic and sweet. Now I realized it was just another way he took from me. I cooked. I cleaned. I managed the household. He just showed up. How was the trip? He asked. Good, I said, keeping my voice light. Closed the deal with the Singapore investors. That's my girl, he said. You're amazing at what you do. I wanted to throw the knife at him. Instead, I just chopped the onions more aggressively. Thanks. We ate dinner together. We talked about nothing. He told me about a new restaurant he wanted to try next week. I agreed, knowing we would never go. He asked about my mom, if I had called her recently. I said I had. Every word felt like acting. Every smile felt like a mask. After dinner, Cameron said he had work to do and disappeared into his study. I cleaned up the kitchen, loaded the dishwasher, and then went to our bedroom. I closed the door and finally let myself feel the weight of it all. The lying. The pretending. The fact that I was sharing a home, a bed, with someone who was actively trying to destroy me. My phone buzzed. A text from Patricia. Documents are ready. Need your signature tomorrow morning. Can you come at 9? I texted back. I'll be there. The next morning, I told Cameron I had an early meeting with investors. He barely looked up from his phone. Okay, babe. See you tonight. I drove to Patricia's office in the cold November morning. The city was just waking up. I parked in the garage beneath her building and took the elevator up, my heart pounding the entire way. Patricia had everything ready. Divorce papers. Financial motions. A request for a restraining order. Everything was organized in neat stacks on her conference table. This is it, she said. Once you sign these, there's no going back. Your husband will be served this afternoon. By tonight, your life will look very different. I picked up the pen. Good. I signed everything. Each signature felt like freedom. Each document was another step toward taking my life back. What happens now? I asked when I was done. Now you go home and pack a bag, Patricia said. I've arranged for you to stay at a hotel for a few days. Just as a precaution. Some men don't react well to being served. Cameron won't hurt me, I said. Patricia gave me a look. Mrs. Phillips. Naomi. I've been doing this for 25 years. I've heard that sentence 1,000 times. And sometimes it's true. But sometimes it's not. I'm not willing to take that risk with you. Pack a bag. Stay at the hotel. Let's get through the initial reaction safely. I nodded. She was right. I did not really know Cameron anymore. Maybe I never had. I went home. Cameron was already gone for the day. I packed quickly. Clothes, toiletries, my laptop, important documents. I took one last look around my penthouse. This was still mine. No matter what happened, this was mine. Cameron would not take it. The hotel Patricia had arranged was nice. Not as nice as my penthouse, but comfortable. I checked in and sat on the bed, waiting. Patricia had said Cameron would be served around 3 in the afternoon. It was 11 now. 4 more hours. I tried to work. I opened my laptop and looked at emails, but I could not focus. I kept imagining Cameron's face when he got the papers. Would he be surprised? Angry? Would he realize I had known all along? At 3:30 my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Hello. Naomi. Cameron's voice. He sounded furious. What the hell is this? I took a deep breath. It's exactly what it looks like. I'm divorcing you. You can't just, he started. I can, I interrupted. And I have. Don't contact me again. Talk to my lawyer. I hung up. My hands were shaking now, but it was not fear. It was adrenaline. I had done it. I had fired the first shot. My phone rang again immediately. Cameron. I declined the call. It rang again. Declined. Again. Declined. After the 5th call, I blocked his number. A text came through from Patricia. How are you doing? I'm okay, I texted back. He called 5 times. I blocked him. Good. Stay at the hotel. Don't go home yet. I'll let you know when it's safe. I spent the rest of the day in that hotel room, alternating between feeling powerful and feeling scared. I had started something I could not stop. But I did not want to stop it. I wanted to see it through. I wanted to watch Cameron lose everything the way he had tried to make me lose everything. By nighttime, Patricia sent another text. Joint accounts are frozen. His accounts are flagged for investigation. You're doing great. Get some rest. Rest. I almost laughed. I had not really slept in 3 days. But I tried. I lay in that hotel bed and closed my eyes and told myself that everything was going to be okay. I was fighting back. I was not going to be a victim. I was going to be a survivor. And survivors did not quit. I stayed at the hotel for 3 days. 3 days of living out of a suitcase, ordering room service, and checking my email every 5 minutes for updates from Patricia. But those 3 days were productive. While Cameron was panicking, I was planning. Patricia sent me daily updates. Cameron had tried to withdraw money from our joint accounts and found them frozen. He had called her office 14 times in 2 days. His lawyer had submitted a motion to dismiss, which Patricia said was amateur hour and would be denied. Cameron had posted on social media about going through a difficult time, fishing for sympathy. Nobody was biting. But the best news came on day 3. Patricia called me directly. We need to talk, she said. Can you come to the office? I was there in 30 minutes. Patricia had another attorney with her this time. A man in his 40s with kind eyes and a serious expression. This is Julian Reeves, Patricia said. He specializes in financial crimes. I asked him to look at the evidence you collected. Julian shook my hand. Mrs. Phillips, you've built an impressive case. What your husband did goes beyond simple infidelity. He committed wire fraud when he transferred marital assets to Stephanie Drake without your consent. He attempted mortgage fraud when he tried to refinance your property. And there are some irregularities in his business accounts that suggest he may have been doing this for longer than you realize. I sat down slowly. What kind of irregularities? Julian pulled out a folder. Your husband's company, Phillips Capital Management, has been struggling for about 2 years. He's been using creative accounting to hide losses. Some of those losses were covered by money from your joint accounts. Money that was partly yours. How much? I asked. Approximately $800,000 over 2 years. The room felt too small suddenly. $800,000. Cameron had stolen $800,000 from me? Can we prove it? I asked. Yes, Julian said. And when we do, Cameron Phillips won't just lose the divorce. He'll face criminal charges. Patricia leaned forward. Naomi, this is where you need to make a decision. We can keep this civil. Divorce, asset division, alimony if applicable. Or we can go nuclear. Report the fraud to the authorities, cooperate with investigators, and make sure Cameron faces every consequence of his actions. Both are valid choices. But you need to decide which path you want to take. I thought about it. I thought about Cameron sitting at my kitchen island, drinking my wine, eating my food lying to my face. I thought about Stephanie looking at furniture for my penthouse, planning to live in my home. I thought about every time Cameron had called me babe, or beautiful, or amazing while secretly planning to rob me. Nuclear, I said. I want to go nuclear. Patricia smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. Julian, she's all yours. Julian spent the next 2 hours walking me through what would happen. He would contact the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. They would open an investigation. I would need to give a statement. They would subpoena Cameron's records. It would take time, but eventually Cameron would be charged. What about Stephanie? I asked. She received stolen money. Is she liable? Julian nodded. Potentially. If she knew the money was obtained fraudulently, she could face charges as an accessory. At minimum, she'll have to return the money. That made me smile. Stephanie was about to find out that Cameron's gifts had strings attached. I left Patricia's office feeling energized. I had spent 3 days in hiding, but I was done hiding. It was time to take back my life. I went back to my penthouse. Patricia had arranged for the locks to be changed and for building security to be notified that Cameron was not allowed access. When I walked through the door, it felt different. Lighter. Like a weight had been lifted. I spent the rest of the day cleaning. I threw away everything that reminded me of Cameron. His toothbrush. His clothes. The stupid decorative bowl he had insisted we needed for the coffee table. All of it went into trash bags. I called a charity to pick up his expensive suits. Let someone else benefit from his taste in designer clothes. My phone rang. It was Rebecca. Naomi, are you okay? I heard about the divorce. I'm fine, I said. Better than fine, actually. Good. Because I have news. The investors from Singapore called. They want to move forward with a new project. Bigger than the last one. They specifically asked for you. I felt a surge of pride. While my personal life was falling apart, my professional life was thriving. Because I was good at what I did. Because I had built something real that had nothing to do with Cameron. Set up the meeting, I said. I'm ready to work. Over the next few days, I fell into a new routine. I worked during the day building my business, taking meetings, making deals. In the evenings, I met with Patricia and Julian, building the case against Cameron. I documented everything. I provided bank statements and email records and text messages. I told them about every lie Cameron had told, every time he had manipulated me, every penny he had stolen. And slowly, piece by piece, we built an ironclad case. 2 weeks after I filed for divorce, Julian called with news. The FBI has opened a formal investigation, he said. They're moving fast. Cameron Phillips is about to have a very bad day. Good, I said. He deserves it. I hung up and looked around my penthouse. The sun was setting over Central Park. The sky was pink and gold and beautiful. This was mine. My home. My life. My success. Cameron had tried to take it. But he had failed. And now he was going to pay. The FBI moved faster than I expected. Within a week of opening their investigation, 2 agents showed up at Cameron's office. I was not there to see it, but I heard about it from everyone who was. Apparently, Cameron had been in the middle of a meeting with potential investors when the agents walked in and asked him to come with them for questioning. Patricia called me that afternoon. Cameron's been taken in for questioning, she said. His lawyer is with him, but this is bad for him. The FBI doesn't waste time on small cases. They have something solid. What happens now? I asked. Now we wait. They'll interview him. They'll go through his records. If they find what we think they'll find, they'll arrest him. How long? Could be days. Could be weeks. Federal investigations move on their own timeline. I tried to focus on work, but it was hard. Every day felt like waiting for a bomb to go off. I kept my phone close, waiting for updates. Meanwhile, my divorce case was moving forward. Patricia had filed motions for temporary support and for an accounting of all marital assets. Cameron's lawyer was fighting everything, but it was a losing battle. The evidence was overwhelming. 3 weeks after the FBI interview, I got the call I had been waiting for. Cameron Phillips has been arrested, Patricia said. Charges include wire fraud, identity theft, and embezzlement. His bail hearing is tomorrow. I sat down slowly. It was real. It was actually happening. Cameron was going to face consequences. Do you want to be there? Patricia asked. At the bail hearing? Yes, I said immediately. I want to see his face. The bail hearing was at 9 in the morning in federal court in Manhattan. I dressed carefully. A navy suit. My hair down. Minimal jewelry. I wanted to look professional, not vengeful. Even though vengeance was exactly what this was. I sat in the back of the courtroom with Patricia beside me. Cameron was brought in wearing an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs. He looked terrible. His hair was messy. He had dark circles under his eyes. He had lost weight. When he scanned the courtroom and saw me, his face went pale. Good, I thought. Let him see me. Let him know I'm the reason he's here. The prosecutor laid out the case. 8 counts of wire fraud. 3 counts of identity theft. 2 counts of embezzlement. The total amount stolen was over $1.2 million, not just from me but from his business partners and investors as well. Cameron had been running a scheme for years, using money from one source to pay back another like a house of cards waiting to collapse. Cameron's lawyer argued for bail. He had ties to the community. He was not a flight risk. He was a respected businessman. The prosecutor disagreed. Your Honor, Mr. Phillips has significant assets hidden in offshore accounts. He has a mistress with access to funds. He has every reason to flee. The government requests that bail be denied. The judge looked at Cameron for a long moment. Then she said, bail is set at $5 million. Next hearing is scheduled for 6 weeks from today. $5 million. Cameron's face went even paler. His lawyer whispered something to him. Cameron shook his head. He did not have $5 million in liquid cash. His accounts were frozen. His assets were tied up in the divorce. He was going to stay in jail. I stood up and walked out of the courtroom. I did not look back. I did not need to. I had seen what I came to see. Cameron Phillips was going down and I was the one who pushed him. Outside the courthouse, reporters had gathered. News of Cameron's arrest had spread fast. He was a well-known businessman, and his fall from grace was a juicy story. I put on sunglasses and walked quickly to my car, but one reporter caught up to me. Mrs. Phillips, do you have any comment on your husband's arrest? I stopped. I looked at the camera. I thought about saying something cutting or clever, but instead I just said, "Justice is being served. That's all that matters." Then I got in my car and drove away. That night I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Hello? Naomi." It was Stephanie. Her voice was shaky. "We need to talk." "No," I said. "We don't. Please just listen. I didn't know he was stealing from you. I swear. He told me the money was his. He said you were keeping everything from him. I didn't know." "I don't care what you knew," I interrupted. "You slept with my husband. You planned to move into my home. You took money that wasn't yours. I don't care if you knew where it came from. You're just as guilty as he is." "The FBI is asking me questions," Stephanie said. She was crying now. "They're saying I might be charged. They're freezing my accounts. Naomi, please, I'm scared." "Good," I said coldly. "You should be scared. You should have thought about consequences before you decided to help destroy my life." "I never wanted to hurt you," she sobbed. "I just fell in love with him. I thought." "You thought you'd get a penthouse and a rich husband," I said. "Well, congratulations. You got a criminal and a federal investigation. I hope it was worth it." I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From satisfaction. Stephanie was scared. Cameron was in jail. Everything was falling apart for them, just like they had tried to make everything fall apart for me. My phone rang again. This time it was Patricia. "I heard Stephanie called you." "How did you know?" "She called me too. She wants to make a deal. She's willing to testify against Cameron in exchange for immunity." "What did you tell her?" "I told her to talk to the prosecutor. This isn't my jurisdiction. But Naomi, if she testifies, Cameron is done. There will be no way for him to fight the charges." I thought about it. Part of me wanted Stephanie to go down with Cameron. But the other part of me just wanted this over. I wanted Cameron in prison. I wanted my life back. "Tell her to do what she needs to do," I said. "I don't care about her. I just want Cameron to pay." "He will," Patricia said. "Trust me, he will." I hung up and poured myself a glass of wine. I walked to my balcony and looked out at the city. The lights twinkled below me. People were living their lives, completely unaware of the war I had been fighting. And winning. Cameron thought he could take my penthouse. He thought he could steal from me and cheat on me and get away with it. He thought I would be easy to manipulate, easy to break. He was wrong. And now he was learning exactly how wrong he had been. News of Cameron's arrest spread through our social circle like wildfire. Suddenly, everyone had an opinion. People I had considered friends started calling, not to support me but to get gossip. "Did you really not know?" they would ask. Were there signs? They acted concerned, but I could hear the judgment in their voices. Like somehow I should have known. Like I should have prevented this. I stopped answering most calls. The only people I talked to were my real friends. My college roommate, Tasha, who flew in from Chicago to stay with me for a weekend. My business partner, Greg, who sent me a text that just said, "You're a warrior. Never forget that." My mom, who said, "I never liked him anyway," which made me laugh for the first time in weeks. But not everyone was on my side. 3 of Cameron's friends, men I had hosted in my home for dinner parties, sent me angry emails accusing me of ruining his life and being vindictive. One even suggested I was making up the evidence. I forwarded those emails to Patricia without responding. Let them think what they wanted. The FBI had the evidence. That was what mattered. The divorce proceedings continued while Cameron sat in jail. His lawyer tried to argue that Cameron could not properly defend himself while incarcerated. Patricia shut that down immediately. "Your client is incarcerated because of his own criminal actions," she told the judge. "That doesn't pause his legal obligations in civil court." The judge agreed. The divorce moved forward. Patricia filed for an emergency accounting of all assets. We wanted a complete picture of what Cameron owned and what he owed. His lawyer fought it, but again the evidence was on our side. The court ordered a full financial disclosure. What we found was worse than I thought. Cameron's company was not just struggling. It was completely insolvent. He owed creditors over $3 million. His fancy office was leased, not owned. His cars were leased. Even his watch collection, which he had bragged about constantly, was mostly bought on credit. Cameron Phillips had been living a lie for years, projecting wealth he did not have, using other people's money to maintain an image. And he had planned to use my penthouse to bail himself out. He was going to divorce me, take half the value of the penthouse in the settlement, use that money to pay his debts and start over with Stephanie in the home I had built. I sat in Patricia's office reading through the financial reports, feeling sick. He was going to leave me with nothing, I said quietly. If I hadn't found those papers when I did, if I had waited even a few more weeks, he might have succeeded. Patricia nodded. Men like Cameron are very good at manipulation. They plan carefully. They choose their victims carefully. You were successful, independent, and trusting. That made you an ideal target. I can't believe I married him, I said. Don't blame yourself, Patricia said firmly. He lied to you. He manipulated you. None of this is your fault. The only person responsible for Cameron's actions is Cameron. I nodded, but it was hard not to feel stupid. I was a smart woman. I had built a successful business. How had I not seen this? A week later I got another call. This time from Julian. Stephanie Drake has officially flipped, he said. She's given a full statement to the FBI. She's handed over emails, text messages, bank records. Everything. She's cooperating completely. Why? I asked. What did they offer her? Immunity from prosecution on the condition that she returns all money received from Cameron and testifies at trial. She took the deal. I felt a strange mix of emotions. I was glad Cameron would face justice. But I was also disappointed that Stephanie was getting away with it. She had been part of this. She had helped him plan to steal my home. Is there anything I can do? I asked. To make sure she faces some consequences? You can file a civil suit against her, Julian said. Sue her for emotional distress, alienation of affection if your state allows it. But honestly, Naomi, she has no money. Cameron gave it all to her in cash and gifts, and she's spending it on legal fees now. You'd win, but you wouldn't collect. So she just gets away with it. She's not getting away with it, Julian said gently. Her name is all over this case. Every news article mentions her. Every report calls her Cameron's mistress. She's a 30-year-old woman with no real career skills, and now she's nationally known as the woman who helped a man defraud his wife. She's not getting away with anything. Her reputation is destroyed. That made me feel slightly better. Stephanie might avoid jail, but she would not avoid consequences. Meanwhile, Cameron's world continued to crumble. His business partners filed lawsuits. His creditors came calling. His office was shut down. His accounts were seized. The man who had been worth millions on paper was now worth less than nothing. He was in debt, in jail, and facing decades in prison. And through it all, I kept working. I closed the deal with the Singapore investors. I started planning a new venture. I went to the gym. I had lunch with friends. I lived my life. Because that was what Cameron had tried to take from me, my life. And I refused to let him win, even from a jail cell. One evening, about 6 weeks after Cameron's arrest, I was at home when my doorbell rang. I checked the security camera and saw a woman I did not recognize. Middle-aged. Expensive coat. Nervous expression. I opened the door. Can I help you? Are you Naomi Phillips? She asked. Yes. I'm Catherine Phillips. Cameron's mother. I should have closed the door. I should have told her to leave. But curiosity got the better of me. What do you want? Can I come in? Just for a few minutes. Please. Against my better judgment, I let her in. We sat in my living room, an awkward silence between us. Cameron's mother looked around, taking in the penthouse, the view, the expensive furniture. This is beautiful, she said quietly. Thank you, I said. What do you want, Mrs. Phillips? She took a deep breath. I want to ask you to drop the charges. I almost laughed. I can't drop federal charges. That's not how it works. But you started this, she said. You reported him. If you tell them you were mistaken, that you want to reconcile. I was not mistaken, I said coldly. Your son stole from me. He cheated on me. He tried to take my home. He committed multiple federal crimes. I'm not dropping anything. He made mistakes, she said. But he's still my son. He doesn't deserve to go to prison. He deserves exactly what he's getting, I said. And if you came here to make me feel guilty, you can leave. I'm not the villain in this story. Cameron is. Catherine Phillips stood up, tears in her eyes. He said you were cold. I didn't believe him. But I see it now. I'm not cold, I said. I'm just done being a victim. Your son tried to destroy my life. I'm making sure he can't do it to anyone else. If that makes me cold, so be it. She left without another word. I closed the door and leaned against it, my heart pounding. Even Cameron's family was trying to manipulate me, trying to make me feel responsible for his consequences. But I would not feel guilty. Not anymore. Cameron made his choices. Now he had to live with them. The FBI investigation took 4 months. 4 months of interviews, document reviews, and forensic accounting. I was called in to give statements 3 times. Each time, I sat in a gray government building and answered questions about my marriage, about the money, about Cameron's business dealings. It was exhausting, but I did it. Because I wanted justice. Julian kept me updated throughout the process. They're finding more than they expected, he told me during one meeting. Cameron wasn't just stealing from you. He had been running a Ponzi-like scheme with his business. He was taking money from new investors to pay returns to old investors. The whole thing was collapsing. How much money are we talking about? I asked. Over $5 million from various victims. You were just one of many. But you're the one who exposed it. If you hadn't reported him, this could have gone on for years. More people could have been hurt. That made me feel slightly better about everything. I had not just saved myself. I had saved others from being Cameron's victims. During those 4 months, my life started to feel normal again. I stopped looking over my shoulder. I stopped checking my bank accounts every day to make sure nothing was missing. I started to trust again. Not in relationships, not yet. But in myself. In my judgment. In my ability to survive. I threw myself into work. My new project with the Singapore investors was thriving. We were developing a new software platform for small businesses, something I had been passionate about for years. The work was challenging and exciting. It reminded me why I loved what I did. I also started going to therapy. Patricia had recommended it, and at first I had resisted. I did not want to be the kind of person who needed therapy. But my therapist, Dr. Monroe, helped me understand that needing help was not weakness. It was strength. You've been through a trauma, Dr. Monroe said during our second session. Your husband betrayed you in the worst possible way. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel hurt. It's okay to need time to heal. I don't feel hurt, I said. I just feel angry. Anger is often easier than pain, she said gently. But underneath that anger there's hurt. And you need to deal with both. It took weeks, but slowly I started to let myself feel the pain. I cried in Dr. Monroe's office. I talked about how much I had loved Cameron, how betrayed I felt, how stupid I felt for not seeing the signs. And each session I felt a little bit lighter. Like I was letting go of weight I did not know I was carrying. Meanwhile, Cameron sat in jail. He could not make bail, so he stayed incarcerated while waiting for trial. I heard through Patricia that he was having a hard time. Jail was not easy for men like Cameron, men who were used to luxury and comfort. He was losing more weight. He was fighting with his cellmate. His lawyer was barely speaking to him because Cameron could not pay his fees. Part of me felt bad for him. A small part. The part that remembered the man I thought I had married, the man who brought me coffee in bed and laughed at my jokes and held my hand during movies. But that man had never existed. He had been a mask Cameron wore to manipulate me. The real Cameron was the one sitting in jail, facing the consequences of his crimes. 6 months after Cameron's arrest, the trial date was set. United States versus Cameron Phillips. The trial would start in 8 weeks. Julian called to tell me I would need to testify. What do I need to do? I asked. Just tell the truth, Julian said. Tell the jury what happened. How you discovered the papers. How you found evidence of the affair and the theft. They need to hear from you that Cameron knew exactly what he was doing. Will Cameron be there? In the courtroom? Yes. He has the right to be present for his trial. I had not seen Cameron since the bail hearing, and I was not looking forward to being in the same room with him again. But I would do it. For justice. For closure. As the trial date approached, Patricia finalized the divorce. Without Cameron's cooperation, everything moved slowly. But eventually the judge ruled in my favor on every count. The penthouse was mine. All my personal assets were mine. Cameron was ordered to pay restitution for the money he stole, though Patricia said we would probably never collect since he was broke and going to prison. The important thing is the principle, Patricia said. The court has recognized that Cameron wronged you. That's what matters. On the day of the divorce decree, I went to court alone. Cameron was not there, he was still in jail. His lawyer appeared on his behalf, looking defeated. The judge read the decree aloud. After 3 years of marriage, Naomi Carter and Cameron Phillips were officially divorced. I signed the papers. I walked out of the courthouse. And for the first time in months I felt free. That evening, I stood on my balcony with a glass of champagne. Tasha had come over to celebrate with me. We toasted to new beginnings. You did it, Tasha said. You got out. You saved yourself. I did, I said. But it's not over yet. The trial is still coming. Are you scared? I thought about it. No. I'm ready. I want to look Cameron in the eye and tell the truth about what he did. I want him to hear it from me. Tasha smiled. That's my girl. Still fighting. Always, I said. 2 weeks before the trial, I got an unexpected call from Stephanie. I had blocked her number months ago, but she called from a different phone. Naomi, please don't hang up, she said quickly. What do you want, Stephanie? I wanted to say I'm sorry. I know it doesn't mean anything, but I need you to know that I'm sorry. I was stupid. I believed Cameron's lies. I thought you were the bad guy, but I was wrong. And I'm sorry. I was quiet for a moment. Then I said, you were an adult making adult choices. You chose to sleep with a married man. You chose to take money you didn't earn. You chose to help plan to steal my home. I don't care if you're sorry. Sorry doesn't fix anything. I know, she said quietly. I just wanted you to know. I'm testifying against him. I'm going to tell the truth about everything. Good, I said. At least you're doing one right thing. I hung up. I did not feel better. I did not feel worse. I just felt nothing toward Stephanie. She was not worth my energy anymore. The trial was about to begin. And I was ready. The trial started on a Monday morning in early spring. The courthouse was packed with reporters, curious onlookers, and Cameron's former business associates who wanted to see him fall. I sat in the second row with Patricia beside me. Julian sat at the prosecutor's table. And Cameron sat at the defense table in a suit that hung loosely on his frame. He had lost so much weight in jail that he looked like a different person. The prosecution laid out their case methodically. They showed the jury bank records proving Cameron had transferred money without authorization. They showed emails where Cameron discussed hiding assets from me. They showed text messages between Cameron and Stephanie where they planned to force me out of my own home. I watched the jury's faces as they saw the evidence. Some looked disgusted. Some looked angry. Some just looked sad. But none looked sympathetic to Cameron. On the third day, Stephanie took the stand. She looked nervous, her hands shaking as she was sworn in. The prosecutor asked her to describe her relationship with Cameron. We were in a relationship for 14 months, she said quietly. Cameron told me his marriage was over. He said Naomi was controlling and that he wanted to leave her. He said he just needed time to plan. Did Mr. Phillips give you money? Yes. He gave me $400,000 over the course of our relationship. He said it was his money from his business. I didn't know it came from his wife. Did you know Mr. Phillips was planning to claim his wife's penthouse as marital property? Stephanie nodded. Yes. He said we would live there together once the divorce was final. We even looked at furniture to replace Naomi's things. Did you have any concern that this property belonged to Mrs. Phillips? Cameron said it was marital property. He said Naomi was being unreasonable about sharing it. I believed him. The defense attorney cross-examined her, trying to make her look like a gold digger, but Stephanie held her ground. She admitted she had been wrong. She admitted she had made bad choices. But she also made it clear that Cameron had lied to her just like he had lied to me. On the 5th day I was called to testify. I walked to the stand with my head high. I was sworn in and took my seat. The prosecutor stood and smiled at me gently. Mrs. Carter, he said, using my maiden name which I had legally reclaimed. Can you tell the jury about the day you discovered your husband's plans? I took a deep breath and told them everything. Finding the papers. Reading the messages. Discovering the affair. Learning about the money transfers. I spoke clearly and calmly, never raising my voice, never crying. I just told the truth. Did you ever give your husband permission to transfer money from your joint accounts? The prosecutor asked. No. Never. Did you ever give your husband permission to attempt to refinance your penthouse? No. I didn't even know he tried until my lawyer discovered it. In your marriage, did Mr. Phillips ever contribute financially to the household? No. I paid for everything. The household expenses came from my accounts. I bought the groceries, paid the utilities, paid for our vacations. Cameron said he was reinvesting his money in his business, so I covered everything else. The prosecutor nodded. So to be clear, you were the financial provider in this marriage, and yet Mr. Phillips believed he was entitled to your property? Yes. The defense attorney cross-examined me, trying to suggest I had been vindictive, that I had reported Cameron out of spite rather than justice. But I would not take the bait. I reported my husband because he committed crimes, I said firmly. He stole from me. He attempted to steal my property. That's not spite. That's the law. After 2 weeks of testimony, the trial went to the jury. They deliberated for 6 hours. When they came back, the verdict was unanimous on all counts. Guilty. 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 Cameron's face was blank as the verdict was read. He did not cry. He did not react. He just sat there staring straight ahead. Sentencing was scheduled for 3 weeks later. Patricia told me I could make a victim impact statement if I wanted. I said yes. On the day of sentencing, the courtroom was packed again. Cameron's mother was there, crying quietly in the back row. Several of his victims were there to give their own statements. And I was there ready to speak. The judge called me forward. I stood at the podium and looked directly at Cameron. He met my eyes for the first time since the trial began. Cameron Phillips was my husband, I said. I loved him. I trusted him. I built a life with him. And he repaid that love and trust by lying to me, stealing from me, and planning to take everything I had worked for. He didn't just hurt me financially. He hurt me emotionally. He made me doubt myself, my judgment, my worth. But I'm not standing here as a victim. I'm standing here as a survivor. Cameron tried to destroy me and he failed. I'm still here. I'm still successful. I still have my home, my business, my life. Cameron took nothing from me except time. And now he's going to lose his time. I hope he uses his years in prison to think about the lives he destroyed and the people he hurt. And I hope he realizes that crime doesn't pay. Thank you. I walked back to my seat. Patricia squeezed my hand. Well said, she whispered. The judge sentenced Cameron to 15 years in federal prison. He would serve at least 12 years before being eligible for parole. Additionally, he was ordered to pay restitution to all his victims, totaling over $6 million. Cameron was led out of the courtroom in handcuffs. He looked back once, his eyes finding mine. I did not look away. I stared right back at him, letting him see that I was not broken. I had won. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded me. I made a brief statement. Justice has been served today. My ex-husband will face the consequences of his crimes. I'm grateful to the FBI, the prosecutors, and everyone who helped bring the truth to light. Now I'm looking forward to moving on with my life. That was all I said. I did not answer questions. I did not elaborate. I just got in my car and drove home. That night I sat in my penthouse and cried. Not sad tears. Relief tears. It was over. Really truly over. Cameron was going to prison. I was free. I had won. The months after Cameron's sentencing were strange. I had spent almost a year focused on the divorce, the investigation, and the trial. Now suddenly it was all over. I had nothing to fight. No battles to plan. Just life to live. At first I did not know what to do with that. I threw myself into work even harder than before. My new software platform launched and was immediately successful. We signed contracts with companies across the country. My team grew from 5 people to 20. My bank account, which had taken a hit from legal fees, started recovering quickly. But work was not enough. I had spent 3 years of my life with Cameron, and another year fighting him. I had forgotten how to just be. How to exist without constantly looking over my shoulder or planning my next move. Dr. Monroe helped me work through it. You've been in survival mode, she said. That's normal after trauma. But now you need to learn how to thrive, not just survive. How do I do that? I asked. You start by doing things that make you happy. Not things that make you successful or productive. Things that bring you joy. So I started trying. I took a painting class and discovered I was terrible at art, but I enjoyed it anyway. I joined a book club and made new friends who knew nothing about my past. I traveled to places I had always wanted to see. I went to Paris for a week and ate croissants and walked along the Seine and felt, for the first time in a long time, at peace. I also started dating again. Not seriously. Just casual dinners and coffee dates. Most of them went nowhere, and that was fine. I was not looking for love. I was just relearning how to trust people. How to let someone in without wondering if they were secretly planning to betray me. One evening, 6 months after Cameron's sentencing, I ran into Julian at a charity event. He was there representing his firm and I was there as a donor. We had not spoken since the trial ended, though he had sent me a brief congratulations email when my software platform launched. Naomi, he said, smiling. It's good to see you. How are you doing? I'm good, I said. And I meant it. Really good, actually. How about you? Busy. But that's not unusual. He paused. Your platform is doing well. I've been reading about it. You have. Of course. I like to keep up with former clients. Make sure they're thriving. We talked for a while about work, about the city, about nothing important. And then, as the event was winding down, Julian said, would you like to have coffee sometime? Just as friends. I promise I'm not secretly planning to steal your penthouse. I laughed. It felt good to laugh about it. Sure. Coffee sounds nice. We exchanged numbers and went our separate ways. A few days later, Julian texted asking if I was free that weekend. We met at a small coffee shop in the West Village on a Saturday morning. He was dressed casually in jeans and a sweater, looking more relaxed than I had ever seen him during the trial. We talked for 2 hours. About his work. About my work. About our families. About books and movies and travel. It was easy. Comfortable. No pressure. Just two people getting to know each other. Can I be honest? Julian said as we were finishing our coffee. I've been wanting to ask you out for months. But I wasn't sure if it was appropriate. You were my client and you had just been through something terrible. I didn't want to take advantage. You're asking me out now? I said, smiling. If you're interested. If not, we can just be friends. I mean that. I like talking to you, Naomi. You're smart and strong and funny. But I understand if dating is the last thing you want. I thought about it. Dating had been Cameron's lawyer, the man who helped me get justice. That felt complicated. But it also felt right. Julian had seen me at my worst, during the darkest time of my life, and he had helped me through it. He knew everything about my past and he was still here asking for a chance. I'm interested, I said. But slow. I need to go slow. Slow is good, Julian said. I can do slow. We started seeing each other regularly. Coffee dates turned into dinner dates. Dinner dates turned into walks in the park and museum visits and lazy Sunday mornings. Julian was patient. He never pushed. He let me set the pace. And slowly I started to trust him. Started to believe that not every man was like Cameron. That it was possible to find someone genuine. Meanwhile, my life continued to improve. My business grew. I bought a vacation home in the Hamptons. I reconnected with old friends I had lost touch with during my marriage. I started volunteering at a nonprofit that helped women escaping abusive relationships. I wanted to use my experience to help others, to show them that they could survive and thrive. One evening, almost a year after Cameron's sentencing, I was at home when I got an email from Patricia. Thought you'd want to know. Cameron's appeal was denied. His conviction stands. He'll serve his full sentence. I read that email and felt nothing. No satisfaction. No anger. Nothing. Cameron was no longer part of my life. He was just a bad memory fading with time. I called Julian. Want to come over? I have news I want to share. He arrived 30 minutes later with a bottle of wine. I told him about the email. It's really over, I said. Cameron's appeal was denied. He's going to serve his full sentence. Julian wrapped his arms around me. How do you feel? Free, I said. I feel free. We sat on my balcony looking out at the city talking about the future. Julian was thinking about starting his own practice. I was thinking about expanding my business internationally. We talked about our dreams, our goals, our hopes. And for the first time in years, I felt excited about what was coming next. Not scared. Not worried. Just excited. Thank you, I said to Julian. For what? For being patient with me. For understanding. For seeing me as more than just a client or a victim. You were never a victim, Julian said gently. Even during the trial, even when you were telling your story, you were never a victim. You were a fighter. That's what I saw. That's what I see now. I kissed him. Not because I had to. Not because I was trying to forget Cameron. But because I wanted to. Because Julian made me happy. Because I was ready to open my heart again. 2 years after I found those papers on my kitchen counter, I stood in my penthouse getting ready for a party. Not a party to celebrate a business deal or a legal victory. Just a party because it was Saturday night and I wanted to gather the people I loved in the space I loved. My penthouse looked different now. I had renovated after the divorce, changing everything that reminded me of Cameron. New furniture. New paint. New art on the walls. The only thing that stayed the same was the view. The view that had made me fall in love with this place to begin with. Tasha arrived first, bringing her new girlfriend and a bottle of expensive champagne. To new beginnings, she said, hugging me. To new beginnings, I agreed. Rebecca came with her husband and their baby. Greg came with his boyfriend. Dr. Monroe even came, smiling as she told me how proud she was of my progress. And Julian came, of course, bringing flowers and that easy smile that still made my heart skip a beat. We had been dating for over a year now, slowly like I had asked for. But over the past few months, it had stopped feeling slow. It started feeling right. Julian spent most nights at my place. He had a drawer in my dresser. His toothbrush sat next to mine in the bathroom. We talked about the future in concrete terms now. Not if but when. Speech. Tasha called out halfway through the party. Naomi, give us a speech. I laughed and held up my glass. Everyone gathered around, quieting down. Okay, I said. I'll keep this short. 2 years ago my life fell apart. Or at least that's what it felt like at the time. My husband betrayed me. He tried to take everything I had worked for. And for a while I was angry. I was hurt. I was scared. But then I realized something. He didn't take anything from me. He tried, but he failed. Because the things that matter most, the things that make me who I am, those can't be stolen. My intelligence, my strength, my ability to build and create and survive. Those are mine. Always have been. Always will be. I looked around at the faces of the people I loved. So this party isn't about celebrating Cameron going to prison, though I won't lie, that didn't hurt. This party is about celebrating me. About celebrating the fact that I survived. That I thrived. That I took back my life and made it even better than it was before. Thank you all for being part of that journey. I love you all. Everyone cheered. Tasha wiped away tears. Julian kissed my cheek and whispered, "I'm so proud of you." Later that night, after everyone had left, Julian and I stood on the balcony. The city lights twinkled below us. It was late spring and the air was warm and perfect. "I have something to tell you," Julian said. I turned to him. "What?" "I signed the lease on my new office today. I'm officially starting my own practice." "Julian, that's amazing." I hugged him. "I'm so happy for you. I couldn't have done it without you," he said. "Watching you build your business, watching you fight for what's yours, it inspired me to take the risk." "You're going to be incredible," I said. "I hope so." He took a deep breath. "There's something else." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. My heart started racing. "Naomi, I know we said slow. And I know you've been through hell. But I love you. I love your strength and your intelligence and your kindness. I love the way you fight for what's right. I love the way you never give up. And I want to spend the rest of my life with you if you'll let me." He opened the box. Inside was a simple, beautiful ring. "Will you marry me?" I looked at him, this man who had seen me at my lowest and helped lift me up. This man who was patient and kind and real. This man who loved me for exactly who I was. "Yes," I said. "Yes, I'll marry you." He slipped the ring on my finger and kissed me. And standing there on my balcony, in the penthouse I had fought so hard to keep, with the man I loved beside me, I felt complete. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight streaming through my windows. Julian was still asleep beside me. I looked at the ring on my finger and smiled. Then I got up, made coffee, and walked to my balcony. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Cameron Phillips transferred to maximum security facility after altercation with another inmate. I deleted the notification without reading more. Cameron was no longer my concern. He was no longer part of my story. I was building a new story now. One where I was the hero, not the victim. One where I got everything I wanted, not because I took it from someone else, but because I earned it. Because I fought for it. Because I refused to let anyone take it from me. My penthouse. My business. My freedom. My happiness. My future with Julian. All mine. Everything I wanted and more. Cameron had tried to take my penthouse. Instead, I took everything. His freedom. His reputation. His future. But more than that, I took back my power. I took back my life. I took back myself. And that, I realized as I stood there watching the sun rise over the city, was the greatest victory of all. I heard Julian stirring inside. He came out to the balcony, wrapped his arms around me from behind, and kissed my neck. "Good morning, future Mrs. Reeves," he said. "Good morning," I said, leaning back against him. "Though I think I'll keep Carter professionally." "Whatever makes you happy," he said. I looked out at the city below. The same view I had fallen in love with years ago. But everything else had changed. I had changed. I was stronger now, smarter, more careful, but also more open, more ready to love again, more ready to trust again. Because that was the thing about surviving. It did not just mean staying alive. It meant learning to live fully again, learning to take risks again, learning to open your heart again. Cameron had tried to teach me that people could not be trusted. That love was a weakness. That kindness was something to exploit. But he was wrong. The people in my life, the real people, had shown me the opposite. Tasha flying across the country to support me. Patricia fighting for me. Julian loving me through my worst. They showed me that trust was possible. That love was strength. That kindness was something to cherish. "What are you thinking about?" Julian asked. "How lucky I am," I said. "How far I've come." "You did that," he said. "You fought. You survived. You won." "We won," I corrected. "I couldn't have done it without you." Well, you had already won by the time I asked you to coffee, he said, smiling. But I'm glad you let me be part of your victory lap. I laughed and turned in his arms to face him. This isn't a victory lap. This is just the beginning. The beginning of what? The beginning of everything, I said. Everything I was meant to have. Everything I deserve. Everything I'm going to build. Julian kissed me. Then let's build it together. Together, I agreed. We went inside to start our day. I had meetings scheduled, deals to close, a business to run, a life to live. And for the first time in years, I was not running from something. I was running toward something. Toward a future I was creating on my own terms. My billionaire husband had tried to take my luxury penthouse. Instead, I took everything. His freedom, his assets, his reputation. And most importantly, I took back my own power. I was Naomi Carter, tech entrepreneur, business owner, survivor, fighter, winner. And no one would ever take anything from me again.